Most people think housing will become affordable again, that prices will drop, that things will return to normal. But here's the uncomfortable truth. For many young people in the US, the UK, and Europe, homes may never be affordable the way they once were. Not next year. Not in 10 years. This is not a temporary crisis. This is a permanent shift. Now let's break down why housing is changing forever. The first reason homes are becoming unaffordable is simple. Demand is rising, but supply is not. More people want to live in major cities. Jobs, opportunity, lifestyle, everything pulls people into the same places. But housing construction hasn't kept up. In many countries, building new homes is slow, expensive, and restricted. Zoning laws, limited land, rising material costs. So while population and demand increase, the number of available homes stays tight. And when supply is limited, prices don't fall. They climb. Another factor is that housing is no longer just shelter. It has become an investment. For decades, people were told, buy a home. It will always go up. So homes became assets. And once something becomes an asset, it stops being priced for families and starts being priced for profit. This is why young workers feel locked out. They are not competing with neighbors. They are competing with investors, with corporations, with people who already own property. And when housing becomes a financial product, affordability becomes secondary. The result is a new reality: rent rises, mortgages grow, and homeownership moves further away. In the next part, we'll uncover the deeper force: how interest rates, wages, and the modern economy are making this problem permanent. The second reason housing is becoming permanently unaffordable is the wage gap. Home prices have risen much faster than incomes. In many places, salaries moved slowly, but housing exploded. So even responsible people with good jobs feel behind. Because the math no longer works. A home that once cost 3 times a yearly salary now costs 7, 10, or even more. That gap changes everything. Then there's interest rates. When rates rise, mortgages become dramatically more expensive. The same house suddenly costs hundreds or thousands more per month. So even if prices stabilize, monthly payments remain heavy. And this creates a trap. People can't afford to buy, so they rent longer. But high rent makes saving harder. So they stay stuck. This is why housing becomes a cycle of dependence. Another force is that homeowners don't want prices to fall. For many families, their house is their largest asset. So governments and markets often protect housing values, even when affordability collapses. That means prices rarely return to normal. Instead, the definition of normal shifts upward. This is why young generations feel something older generations didn't. Homeownership is no longer a milestone. It feels like a barrier. In the next part, we'll talk about the modern investor economy and why housing is increasingly controlled by institutions, not families. The next force making housing unaffordable is something most people ignore: corporations. In the past, homes were mostly owned by families. People bought houses to live in them. But today, large investment firms are buying homes at scale. Not 1 or 2, thousands. Because housing has become one of the safest long-term investments. Rent creates predictable income. Property values rise over time. So companies treat neighborhoods like portfolios. And when corporations compete in the housing market, normal buyers cannot keep up. They pay in cash. They move faster. They don't need approval. This pushes prices higher and pushes families out. And once ownership shifts away from individuals, rent becomes the default future. More people rent for life. More people build no equity. More wealth flows upward. Housing becomes less of a personal milestone and more of an economic system. This is why the middle class feels squeezed. If you don't own property, you pay someone who does, and that payment never ends. It becomes a permanent monthly obligation. This is not just a housing issue. It's a wealth issue. Because property is one of the biggest ways people build long-term financial stability. And when fewer people can access it, the wealth gap grows. In the next part, we'll talk about what this means for the future, and what young people can actually do in a world where ownership feels impossible. So what does this mean for the future? It means housing will likely become a dividing line. Those who own property will benefit from rising values. Those who don't may spend decades paying rent without building wealth. This is why the housing crisis is not just about shelter. It's about financial mobility, the ability to move forward. And for many young people, the old path is breaking. But that doesn't mean the future is hopeless. It means the strategy must change. The first shift is awareness. Stop assuming affordability will simply return. Stop waiting for the old world to come back. The second shift is flexibility. Homeownership may look different. Smaller cities, different regions, alternative living models. The idea that success requires owning in the most expensive markets may no longer be realistic. The third shift is focusing on financial resilience, building savings buffers, reducing debt pressure, investing consistently, even in small amounts. Because wealth is not only built through housing, but through ownership in other forms. The most important thing is control. Control over choices. Control over pressure. The housing market may not become easier, but preparation creates options. And options reduce fear. In the final part, we'll bring everything together and explain the real truth, why this shift is happening permanently, and how to think about financial freedom in a world where homes are no longer guaranteed. At the end of the day, this is the truth: housing is changing permanently. Homes are no longer priced mainly for families, they are priced for markets. Demand keeps rising. Supply stays limited. Investors and corporations are buying more property, and wages are not catching up. That combination makes affordability harder every year. This is why many young people feel locked out, even when they work hard and do everything right. But awareness changes everything. Once you understand the shift, you stop waiting for the old world to return, and you start building options. Financial freedom may no longer come from one traditional milestone. It may come from resilience, flexibility, and smart long-term ownership in different forms. The future belongs to those who adapt early, not those who assume things will go back to normal. If this video helped you see the housing crisis more clearly, subscribe to Finvanta Finance. Because money is changing. The middle class is changing. And understanding these shifts has never been more important.